Dinner time, Ezekiel chapter 5. Belshazzar the sovereign made a great feast for 1,000 of his great men, and drank wine in the presence of the 1,000. While tasting the wine, Belshazzar gave orders to bring the gold and silver vessels which his father Nebuchadnezzar had taken from the Hekal, which had been in Jerusalem, that the sovereign and his great men, his wives and his concubines, could drink from them. Then they brought the gold vessels that had been taken from the Hekal of the house of Elah, which had been in Jerusalem, and the sovereign and his great men, his wives and his concubines, drank out of them. They drank wine and praised the Elohim of gold and of silver, of bronze, of iron, of wood, and of stone. At that moment, the fingers of a man's hand appeared and wrote opposite the lampstand on the plaster of the wall of the sovereign's palace. And the sovereign saw the part of the hand that wrote. Then the sovereign's color changed, and his thoughts alarmed him, so that the joints of his lips were loosened, and his knees knocked against each other. The sovereign called loudly to bring in the astrologers, the Kasdim, and the diviners. The sovereign spoke and said to the wise ones of Babel, "Whoever reads this writing and shows me its interpretation is robed in purple and has a chain of gold around his neck, and shall be the third ruler in the reign." So all the sovereign's wise ones came, and they were unable to read the writings or to make known its interpretation to the sovereign. Then sovereign Belshazzar was greatly alarmed, and his color changed, and his great men were puzzled. The sovereigness, because of the words of the sovereign and his great men, came to the banquet hall, and the sovereigness spoke and said, "O sovereign, live forever. Do not let your thoughts alarm you, nor let your color change. There is a man in your reign in whom is the spirit of the set-apart Allah. And in the days of your father, light and understanding and wisdom, like the wisdom of the Elohim, were found in him. And sovereign Nebuchadnezzar your father the sovereign, made him chief of the magicians, astrologers, Kasdim, and diviners. Because an excellent spirit, knowledge, and understanding, interpreting dreams and explaining riddles and solving difficult problems were found in this Daniel, whom the sovereign named Belshazzar. Now let Daniel be called, and let him show the interpretation." So Daniel was brought in before the sovereign. The sovereign spoke and said to Daniel, "Are you that Daniel who is one of the sons of the exiles from Yehuda, whom my father the sovereign brought from Yehuda? I have heard of you, that the spirit of Allah is in you, and that light and understanding and excellent wisdom are found in you. And the wise ones, the astrologers, have been brought in before me, that they should read this writing and make known to me its interpretation. But they were unable to show the interpretation of the word. And I myself have heard of you, that you are able to give interpretations and to solve difficult problems. Now if you are able to read the writing and make known its interpretation to me, you are to be robed in purple and have a chain of gold around your neck, and shall be the third ruler in the reign." Then Daniel answered and said before the sovereign, "Let your gifts be for yourself, and give your rewards to another. Yet I shall read the writing to the sovereign, and make known the interpretation to him. O sovereign, the Most High Allah, Nebuchadnezzar your father, a reign and greatness and preciousness and esteem. And because of the greatness which he gave him, all peoples, nations, and languages trembled and feared before him. Whomever he wished he killed, and whomever he wished he kept alive, and whomever he wished he raised up, and whomever he wished he made low. But when his heart was lifted up, and his spirit was so strong as to act proudly, He was put down from his throne of reign, and they took his preciousness from him. Then he was driven from the sons of men, and his heart was made like the beasts, and his dwelling was with the wild donkeys. He was given grass to eat like oxen, and his body was wet with the dew of the heavens, till he knew that the Most High Allah is ruler in the reign of men, and he sets up over it whomever he wishes. And you, his son, Belshazzar, have not humbled your heart, although you knew all this. And you have lifted yourself up against the master of the heavens, and they brought before you the vessels of his house, and you and your great men, your wives and your concubines, have been drinking wine from them. And you have praised the Elohim of silver, and of gold, and of bronze, of iron, of wood, and of stone, which neither see nor hear nor know. But the Ilah, who holds your breath in his hand, and owns all your ways, you have not made great. Then the part of the hand was sent from him, and this writing was inscribed. And this is the writing that was inscribed. Mene, mene, tekel, upharsin. This is the interpretation of which, mene, Allah has numbered your reign and put an end to it. Tekel, you have been weighed on the scales and found lacking. Peres, your reign has been divided and given to the Medes and Persians. Then Belshazzar gave orders, and they robed Daniel in purple and put a chain of gold around his neck, and they proclaimed concerning him that he is the third ruler in the reign. In that night Belshazzar, sovereign of the Kasdim, was killed, and Dariavesh the Mede took over the reign, being about 62 years old. It pleased Dariavesh to appoint over the reign 120 viceroys to be over all the reign, and over them 3 governors, of whom Daniel was one, so that these viceroys should give account to them, and the sovereign suffer no loss. Then this Daniel distinguished himself above the governors and viceroys, because an excellent spirit was in him. And the sovereign planned to appoint him over all the reign. Then the governors and viceroys sought to find occasion against Daniel concerning the reign, but they were unable to find occasion or corruption, because he was steadfast, and no negligence or corruption was found in him. Then these men said, We shall not find any occasion against this Daniel, unless we find it against him concerning the law of his Allah. Then these governors and viceroys tumultuously gathered before the sovereign, and said this to him, Sovereign Dariavesh, live forever. All the governors of the reign, the nobles and viceroys, the counselors and advisers, have consulted together to establish a royal decree and to make a strong interdict that whoever petitions any ilah or man for 30 days except you, O sovereign, is thrown into the den of lions. Now, O sovereign, establish the interdict and sign the writing, so that it is not to be changed, according to the law of the Medes and Persians, which does not pass away. So sovereign Dariavesh signed the written interdict. And Daniel, when he knew that the writing was signed, went home, and in his upper room, with his windows open toward Yerushalayim, he knelt down on his knees 3 times a day, and prayed and gave thanks before his Allah, as he had done before. Then these men tumultuously gathered and found Daniel praying and entreating before his Allah. Then they approached the sovereign and spoke concerning the sovereign's interdict. Have you not signed an interdict that every man who petitions any Allah or man within 30 days except you, O sovereign, is thrown into the den of lions? The sovereign answered and said, The word is certain, according to the law of the Medes and Persians, which does not pass away. Then they answered and said before the sovereign, Daniel, who is one of the sons of the exile from Yehuda, pays no heed to you, O sovereign, nor for the interdict that you have signed, but makes his petition 3 times a day. Then the sovereign, when he heard these words, was greatly displeased with himself, and set his heart on Daniel to deliver him. And he labored till the going down of the sun to deliver him. Then these men tumultuously gathered before the sovereign, and said to the sovereign, Know, O sovereign, that it is the law of the Medes and Persians, that any interdict or decree which the sovereign establishes is not to be changed. Then the sovereign gave orders, and they brought Daniel, and threw him into the den of lions. And the sovereign spoke and said to Daniel, Your Allah, whom you serve continually, he himself delivers you. And a stone was brought and laid on the mouth of the den, and the sovereign sealed it with his own signet, and with the signets of his great men, that the situation concerning Daniel might not be changed. And the sovereign went to his palace, and spent the night fasting, and no entertainment was brought before him, and his sleep fled from him. Then the sovereign rose up very early in the morning, and hurried to the den of lions. And when he came to the den, he called with a grieved voice to Daniel. The sovereign spoke and said to Daniel, Daniel, servant of the living Allah, has your Allah, whom you serve continually, been able to deliver you from the lions? Then Daniel said to the sovereign, O sovereign, live forever. My Allah has sent his messenger, and has shut the lions' mouths, and they did not harm me, because I was found innocent before him, and also before you, O sovereign. I have done no harm. Then the sovereign was very glad, and gave orders that Daniel be taken up out of the den. And Daniel was taken up out of the den, and no harm was found on him, because he trusted in his Allah. And the sovereign gave orders, and they brought those men who had accused Daniel, and they threw them, their children, and their wives into the den of lions. And the lions overpowered them, and broke all their bones in pieces before they reached the floor of the den. Then sovereign Darivesh wrote to all peoples, nations, and languages that dwell in all the earth, Peace be increased to you. From before me is made a decree that throughout every rule of my reign men are to tremble in fear before the Allah of Daniel, for he is the living Allah, and steadfast forever. And his reign is one which is not destroyed, and his rule is unto the end. He delivers and rescues, and he works signs and wonders in the heavens and on earth, and he has delivered Daniel from the power of the lions. And this Daniel prospered in the reign of Darivesh and in the reign of Koresh the Persian. In the first year of Belshazzar, sovereign of Babel, Daniel had a dream and visions of his head on his bed. Then he wrote down the dream, giving a summary of the matters. Daniel spoke and said, I was looking in my vision by night, and saw the 4 winds of heaven stirring up the great sea. And 4 great beasts came up from the sea, different from one another. The first was like a lion and had eagle's wings. I was looking until its wings were plucked off, and it was lifted up from the earth and made to stand on 2 feet like a man, and it was given a man's heart. And see, another beast, a second like a bear, and it was raised up on one side, and had 3 ribs in its mouth between its teeth. And they said this to it, Arise, devour much flesh. After this I looked and saw another like a leopard, which had on its back 4 wings of a bird, The beast also had 4 heads, and rule was given to it. After this I looked in the night visions, and saw a 4th beast, fearsome and burly, exceedingly strong, and it had great iron teeth. It devoured and crushed and trampled down the rest with its feet, and it was different from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. I was thinking about the horns, then saw another horn, a little one, coming up among them. And 3 of the first horns were plucked out by the roots before it. And see, eyes like the eyes of a man were in this horn, and a mouth speaking great words. I was looking until thrones were set up, and the Ancient of Days was seated. His garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head was like clean wool. His throne was flames of fire, its wheels burning fire. A stream of fire was flowing and coming forth from his presence, and 1,000 thousands served him, and 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. The judge was seated, and the books were opened. I was looking, then, because of the sound of the great words which the horn was speaking, I was looking until the beast was killed, and its body destroyed and given to the burning fire. And the rest of the beasts had their rule taken away, but a lengthening of life was given to them for a season and a time. I was looking in the night vision, and saw one like the son of Enosh, coming with the clouds of the heavens. And he came to the Ancient of Days, and they brought him near before him. And to him was given rulership and preciousness, and a reign that all peoples, nations, and languages should serve him. His rule is an everlasting rule which shall not pass away, and his reign that which shall not be destroyed. As for me, Daniel, my spirit was pierced within me, and the visions of my head alarmed me. I drew near to one of those who stood by, and asked him the certainty of all this. And he spoke to me and made known to me the interpretation of the matters. These great beasts, which are 4 sovereigns which rise up from the earth. Then the set apart ones of the Most High shall receive the reign, and possess the reign forever, even forever and ever. Then I desired for certainty concerning the 4 beasts, which was different from all the others, very fearsome, with its teeth of iron and its nails of bronze, which devoured, crushed, and trampled down the rest with its feet. And concerning the 10 horns that were on its head, and of the other horn that came up, before which 3 fell, this horn, which had eyes and a mouth which spoke great words, whose appearance was greater than his fellows. I was looking, and his horn was fighting against the set-apart ones, and was prevailing against them, until the Ancient of Days came, and right ruling was given to the set-apart ones of the Most High, and the time came, the set-apart ones took possession of the reign. This is what he said. The 4th beast is the 4th reign on earth, which is different from all other reigns, and it devours all the earth, tramples it down, and crushes it. And the 10 horns are 10 sovereigns from this reign. They shall rise, and another shall rise after them, and it is different from the first ones, and it humbles 3 sovereigns. And it speaks words against the Most High, and it wears out the set-apart ones of the Most High. And it intends to change appointed times and law, and they are given into its hand for a time and times and half a time. But the judgment shall sit, and they shall take away its rule, to cut off and to destroy until the end. And the reign and the rulership and the greatness of the reigns under all the heavens shall be given to the people, the set-apart ones of the Most High. His reign is an everlasting reign, and all rulership shall serve and obey him. This is the end of the matter. As for me, Daniel, my thoughts greatly alarmed me, and my color changed, and I kept the matter in my heart. In the 3rd year of the reign of Belshazzar the sovereign, a vision appeared to me, Daniel, after the one that appeared to me the first time. And I looked in the vision, and it came to be, while I was looking, that I was in the citadel of Shushan, which is in the province of Elam. And I looked in the vision, and I was by the river Ulai. And I lifted my eyes and looked, and saw a ram standing beside the river. And it had 2 horns, and the 2 horns were high. And the one was higher than the other, and the higher one came up last. I saw the ram pushing westward and northward and southward, so that no beast could stand before him, and there was no one to deliver from his hand. Well, he did as he pleased and became great. And I was observing, and saw a male goat came from the west over the surface of all the earth without touching the ground, and the goat had a conspicuous horn between his eyes. And he came to the ram that had 2 horns, which I had seen standing beside the river, and ran at him in the rage of his power. And I saw him come close to the ram, and he became embittered against him, and struck the ram, and broke his 2 horns. And there was no power in the ram to withstand him, but he threw him down to the ground and trampled on him. And there was no one to deliver the ram from his hand. And the male goat became very great, but when he was strong, the large horn was broken, and in place of its 4 conspicuous ones came up toward the 4 winds of the heavens. And from one of them came a little horn, which became exceedingly great toward the south, and toward the east, and toward the splendid land. And it became great, up to the host of the heavens. And it caused some of the host and some of the stars to fall to the earth, and trampled them down. It even exalted itself as high as the prince of the hosts. And it took that which is continual away from him, and threw down the foundation of his set-apart place. And because of transgression, an army was given over to the horn to oppose that which is continual. And it threw the truth down to the ground, and it acted and prospered. Then I heard a certain set-apart one speaking, and another set-apart one said to that certain one who was speaking, "Till when is the vision concerning that which is continual, and the transgression that lays waste, to make both the set-apart place and the host be trampled under foot?" And he said to me, "For 2,300 nights. Then that which is set apart shall be made right." And it came to be, when I, Daniel, had seen the vision, that I sought understanding, and see, before me stood one having the appearance of a mighty one. And I heard a man's voice between the banks of Ulai. He called and said, "Gabriel, make this man understand the vision." He then came near where I stood, and he came. When he came, I feared and fell on my face, and he said to me, "Understand, son of man, for the vision is for the time of the end." And as he was speaking with me, I fell stunned upon my face to the ground, but he touched me and made me stand up straight, and said, "Look, I am making known to you what shall take place in the latter time of the wrath, for at the appointed time shall be the end. The ram which you saw having 2 horns are the sovereigns of Media and Persia, and the male goat is the sovereign of Greece, and the large horn between its eyes is the first sovereign. And that it was broken, and 4 stood up in its place, are 4 rulerships arising out of that nation, but not in its power. And in the latter time of their rule, when the transgressors have filled up their measure, A sovereign, fierce of face, and skilled at intrigues shall stand up. And his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power. And he shall destroy incredibly, and shall prosper and thrive, and destroy mighty men and the set-apart people. And through his skill he shall make deceit prosper in his hand, and hold himself to be great in his heart, and destroy many who are at ease, and even stand against the prince of princes. Yet without hand he shall be broken. And what was said in the vision of the evening and morning is truth. And hide the vision, for it is after many days. And I, Daniel, was stricken and became sick for days. Then I rose up and went about the sovereign's work, and I was amazed at the vision, but there was no understanding.